We already have in place a certain amount of accommodation for other religions who have had a longer historical relationship with us. In the state of New York, for instance, it is perfectly acceptable to have your marriage annulled, performed, you have your marital discord resolved according to Jewish law. Because Jews in the state of New York have a history, have been established there for generations, and have successfully argued and acquired certain legal rights that would not have been allowed if the state had to define the separation of church and state with the strictness that we think actually exists out there. In Canada, ironically, Jewish law is given far greater prominence and acceptability. The problem, however, is that Muslim law is also used, and by this I mean the Shari'ah, to justify the most egregious, most barbaric of human rights violations that we see today. And having that kind of a law legitimized, accepted, and acknowledged within society is problematic for any person who is sensible and simply wants a society that follows civil standards. Decency precludes the acceptance of a legal system that allows the killing of people of other faiths simply because they belong to another faith. Extrajudicial killings and the kind of gory realities that are so often aligned with the name Islam and Muslims, this becomes a hurdle for anyone, even the most accommodating society, to overlook. And that brings us to the issue of how do we deal with this abuse of Islamic law? For clearly it is an abuse of Islamic law. If Islamic law had been practiced and exercised as the bin Ladens of this world would have us practice it today, then there would not be 10 million Copts in Egypt. And there are at least that many Copts in Egypt. Then there would not be as many Hindus as had been when India gained independence. Then there would not have been these minorities that have existed in the Muslim world for centuries. Then the Inquisition would have been an expulsion of Jews and Christians from Spain, and not an expulsion of Muslims and Jews by Christians. So it's important to understand that where no legal system or no authority exists, the individual, radical, demonic, demagogue can very much determine how a legal system is defined and how it is implemented. But to be fair to the Shari'ah, it is important to look at it not narrowly as defined by the most blatant, most egregious, most inhuman manifestations of it in these small pockets that exist within the Muslim world today, but rather in that large swath that is Muslim history. Muslim history would reflect a Sharia that accommodated non-Muslims, a Sharia that espoused some of those values that we consider humane and civilized, and a Sharia that worked pretty well for much of its citizens for over 1,200 years.